I want to say thank you to my Patreon subscribers and my Twitch subscribers. If you want to help out the channel, you can actually help out for as little as $1 a month. Enjoy the video and have some fun. All right, so just trying to go back into like a lot of the other shit that I actually covered, and this is a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, a couple of months. This has like been on my tangent to actually cover. So yeah, this is a thing. So you know how you have certain inalienable rights, like the First Amendment, Second Amendment, the Third Amendment, which nobody really pays attention to, but the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment. And you know, here's the thing: you are able to have rights, and when people violate your rights, you end up with this shit. Shall we?
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who.
So this is a channel that I actually watch from time to time, and I do the videos off of it every once in a while. It's Audit the Audit, and of course Lackluster is another one that I do videos off of. And let's see what this shit is talking about this day. Wrongly arrested for trespassing in his own property. This is going to be delicious.
Who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers probable.
By the way, just if you can, and you watch it on YouTube or watching later, please like, share, and subscribe. Here we go.
Cause, trespassing, and mental health, and is brought to us by the Reformatoriums channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. In the early morning hours of October 12th, 2021, Pope County, Arkansas resident Corey Jones was doing some yard work on his property using a headlamp and a corded halogen light he had affixed to a tree. A neighbor who saw him working in the yard called the police to report him as a suspicious person, and Sergeant Damon McMillan.
And you already know that this is some fucked up shit. Like, for real, like, Karen, sit your ass down. Sit your ass down. Okay, let's go.
And Deputy Hayden Saffold of the Pope County Sheriff's Office responded to the call. After discussing the situation with Mr. Jones's neighbor, Sergeant McMillan and Deputy Saffold entered Mr. Jones's property and approached him.
Thank you, Sheriff. Come here.
Not come here. Excuse me, sir, can I talk to you about something? We have a call from my... Okay, let's go.
I'm not gonna go over there. What are you doing? Well, how's it going?
The neighbor called. You live out here? Yeah. What are you doing out in the woods? I know you hear me.
Yeah, I hear you.
So what are you doing out in the woods?
I'm just hanging out, you know?
Well, you're trespassing. You can't be hanging out.
I'm not trespassing right here.
So, you're trespassing. Not, who are you? Can I see some ID? Even though you don't have to present a cop with ID. It's, you're trespassing. Oh, okay, let's fucking go.
Hi, whose property is this?
This is my property right here.
It is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are you doing here scaring this old lady at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I just figured, you know, it'd be a good time to get started.
What? Excuse me? This is 5 o'clock in the morning. He's doing yard work. And it sounds like they're in the South where it gets hotter than Satan's nutsack in a warm Tennessee day. Of course, I'm trying to beat the motherfucking heat. Okay, let's just go. Let's just go.
Get started doing what?
On my work.
What work?
I'm working right here.
You are?
So these good old boys decided to talk to this man who is literally doing his yard work. Okay, sure, dog, sure. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you live here, right?
What's your address?
Yeah.
Um,
We'll go. We're just trying to figure out what's going on.
I understand. What's just?
She's saying somebody's trespassing. Do you live out here?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
What's your name and badge number? I can't quite see it.
It's Hayden Saffold, 1602.
So, like, he knows his rights. He asked him for his name and badge number. That's actually cool because you always have that right. You always have that right for a cop has to identify themselves. You don't because of 4th and 5th Amendment protection. But let's go.
Saffold?
Saffold, yes.
16. And you, sir?
You live out here in these woods or a house?
What's your name and badge number?
What's your house? Where's your house at?
I was curious of your. I mean,
Well,
Are
I
you
totally
not-
understand that, and I'll tell you in a minute, okay? I know you're recording me, but you got to understand.
No. You don't tell them in a minute. You ask them why. Am I being detained? Okay, let's go.
I'm asking you a question. Do you live in these woods or do you live in a house?
you guys approached me. I mean, you could
because
tell me.
right now I believe you're trespassing until you prove otherwise. You are committing a crime.
Well, is this?
Wait, whoa. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? Yeah, this is that shit. And I know people on my channel, like, they come and hate watch my shit, like, because, like, they feel because I'm black, I talk about shit from a black perspective. Dude is not black. And I still feel the police are doing some shit that they shouldn't be doing. So I feel like I need to point that out because my problem is with police misconduct. But let's go.
America? Are we innocent until proven guilty? You're telling me I'm guilty of trespassing out here?
I'm asking you your address because I want to know if you live on this property because you could just be telling me that.
I have the 5th Amendment right. I don't have to answer any questions. I would like to alleviate you guys' worries.
So you can't prove to me that you live on this property.
Sure, I could.
Okay, well then you probably need to do that.
Or you're going to arrest me?
Might have to, yeah.
The officer informs Mr. Jones that he may be placed under arrest if he does not prove that he is the owner of the property. Before we discuss the applicable legal standards further, it's important to note that Mr. Jones was not under any legal obligation to prove that he owned the property or otherwise assist.
See, and that's the thing. That's the thing right there. Cops have gotten away with flexing their power and not doing their job effectively. So when they come up with shit like this, they expect people to genuflex to show that, oh, you're a cop, so I'm going to follow everything you say that you do. No, motherfucker, that's not how this works. We have a 4th and a 5th Amendment right to not self-incriminate, to we don't have to show ID. Shit like this is real. But, you know, he's a big man because he's, well, a big man with a gun.
The officers in their investigation. However, it is possible that he still could be legally arrested if a court concluded that the officers had probable cause to believe that he was trespassing. Although Mr. Jones is correct in his assertion that in the U.S. justice system, criminal defendants are innocent until proven guilty, this is not the standard that applies to when an individual can be arrested.
True.
According to Section 5-39-203 of the Arkansas Code, quote, a person commits criminal...
And this is what I like about channels like this. They actually go to the code. It's not just, and that's why I use them as a way of just talking about the situation because they don't just go, they go to the actual code. But let's continue.
Criminal trespass if he or she purposely enters or remains unlawfully in or upon the premises owned or leased by another person. So, in order for Mr. Jones to be found guilty and convicted of trespassing, a prosecutor would have to prove each element of the offense beyond a reasonable doubt. And because Mr. Jones was the owner of the land, a prosecutor could not meet this legal burden. As the Supreme Court explained in the 1949 case of Brinegar versus United States, quote, these rules are historically grounded rights of our system, developed to safeguard men from dubious and unjust convictions with resulting forfeitures of life, liberty, and property. However, if those standards were to be made applicable in determining probable cause for an arrest, few indeed would be the situations in which an officer charged with protecting the public interest by enforcing the law could take effective action toward that end. For this reason, the standard for placing someone under arrest for a suspected offense is much lower than beyond a reasonable doubt and is known as probable cause. While courts have consistently avoided setting a precise definition of what constitutes probable cause, the Brinegar court explained that, quote, the substance of all the definitions of probable cause is a reasonable ground for belief of guilt, and this means less than evidence which would justify condemnation or conviction. Probable cause requires that an officer have, quote, more than bare suspicion.
And is there any probable cause other than the fucking officer being annoyed that he has to come out there at 5 o'clock in the morning because somebody is playing around in the yard? Is no other probable cause. Is no other probable cause. Well, let's continue.
and it exists where, quote, the facts and circumstances within the officer's knowledge and of which they had reasonably trustworthy information are sufficient in themselves to warrant a man of reasonable caution in the belief that an offense has been or is being committed. Therefore, if the officers arrested Mr. Jones for trespassing after he refused to prove that he owned the property, it is possible a court could conclude they had sufficient probable cause to make the arrest, even though they would be mistaken about the fact that he was trespassing and he could not be convicted of the offense.
I mean, can you not see that I'm out here doing work?
We can see that, but she called because she's saying that you're on her property.
And I bet.
So they changed it up. They changed it up. At first they said because he was on her property, but he was on his property. But let's go. Let's go.
Been out here for 30 minutes yelling, and you didn't come out until now.
Well, I've got to get my kids off to. No, I didn't. I've been back and forth. I've carried some stuff up here to get ready to work.
What are you doing?
I am.
It's not often we get people wandering around the woods at 5 a.m. scaring people. What I want to know is, do you own this property and what is your address? It's a simple question.
So this is, again, this is more of him being annoyed than anything. And that's all this is. This is the guy being annoyed. This is the cop being annoyed that he has to come out here. And he said, I got to get my kids to school. This is just him being annoyed. And you being annoyed is not probable cause to arrest somebody. But let's go.
I'm allowed to ask because right now I think you're trespassing.
Well, I'm also allowed to not answer it if I don't.
So you answering the question could prove you innocent, but you're not going to, right?
I have the Fifth Amendment right, sir.
You have the Fifth Amendment right not to prove yourself innocent. I don't think you want to tell me your address because
See, and this is the shit that, like, this good old boy bullshit, man. This is just some bullshit right here. Now, you're already being argumentative with the person. You already came out and says, "I'm come over here," shit. All this other good bullshit. Cops aren't de-escalating shit. They're not de-escalating shit. He has literally came in and escalated the hell out of the situation. But let's continue.
I don't think you have one, and I don't think this is it.
Well, sir, you're mistaken. Are you going to arrest me for loitering on my property?
No, I'm going to run your name and see what your address is. I have a right to do that because you're accused of a crime right now.
The officer tells Mr. Jones that he...
Now, this actually can be done. This can actually be done. This is, well, you know, I'm trying to figure out who you are. We have a complaint. This is technically, barely technically falling into, you know, probable cause. Technically. But let's see what the statute says. I may be wrong, but technically I would say this will fall into probable cause.
He has a right to identify him because he is being accused of trespassing. However, a court would likely find that Mr. Jones was not under any legal obligation to identify himself to the officers. The Arkansas Code does not include a stop and identify statute that requires individuals to identify themselves to the police during Terry stops. Instead, Arkansas only places a requirement for citizens to identify themselves in the state's loitering statute. Section 5-71-213 of the Arkansas Code states that, quote, a person commits the offense of loitering if he or she lingers, remains, or prowls in a public place or the premises of another person without apparent reason and under circumstances that warrant alarm or concern for the safety of persons or property in the vicinity, and, upon inquiry by a law enforcement officer, refuses to identify himself or herself and give a reasonably credible account of his or her presence and purpose. While it is understandable why the officers would think this statute would apply to Mr. Jones in this situation.
Okay, well, I was incorrect. I stand corrected. Well, let's continue.
As they do not believe his assertions that he owns the property. Because Mr. Jones was not in a public place or the premises of another person, he could not be convicted of loitering. Further, it is unclear whether the officers even had sufficient evidence to support the reasonable suspicion of criminal activity needed to detain Mr. Jones. Although Mr. Jones's neighbor reported him as a suspicious person, she admitted that she didn't know who owned the property. The officers also did not know who owned the property.
Oh, so that's... Oh, okay. So that's actually brings a little bit more. His neighbors was being a Karen. His neighbors was being a Karen. That's what it was. She didn't know who owned the property. She just saw somebody over there that she did not know, and she was being a Karen. Oh, okay. Fuck. Okay.
and they made no attempts to determine who owned the property before approaching Mr. Jones and demanding that he identify himself. They likewise did not attempt to speak with the property owner by knocking on the door to the house. The only information the officers had is that someone was walking on Mr. Jones's property, and they had no real reason not to believe Mr. Jones when he said he was the property owner. Given the lack of evidence supporting that criminal activity had even occurred, a court could conclude that the officers did not have reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Jones, which would make the detention unconstitutional.
So what's your name?
So have I not dispelled your suspicions?
Yes or no? No, because I don't even know who you are. Is it a yes or no question, or are you going to tell me your name or not?
If you gotta get your kids, you gotta get your
Yes, I do. Am I going to be arrested if I do not tell you my name?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, now see that's a little bit like, you can tell this sounds like the cops are just aggravated at this particular point. And all right, let's go.
Really?
Because I don't know where you live at, and I don't know if you belong on this property.
Sir, I live right here. I belong right here.
Tell me your address. Tell me your name so I can run it.
I'll tell you my address. My address is...
Wait. He's in front of the house. Come on. You can't get much lazier than that. He's in front of the house. Oh my God. Okay, let's go.
Okay. I don't know this is your property.
What I would suggest, sir, is maybe you get with her, one of you guys. I mean, if you want to hold me here and detain me, I understand. If you want to get with her and just make sure that this isn't her property, and maybe you're on the wrong.
You can't prove it's yours.
I can prove it's mine.
Then tell me.
I don't intend to answer any questions.
Okay. You're under arrest.
I'm under
Can't
arrest.
find you.
See, this is the shit. Wow, these are lazy fucking cops. Okay, all right, all right, this shit just pisses me off. Cause they're lazy. They're literally being lazy. He says, "Hey, go talk to old girl. Hey, let's have a conversation with her." But I'm not gonna do that because I gotta get my kids to school, like type bullshit. Okay, let's go.
Yes, sir.
Well, until we know.
Am I detained or am I under arrest?
Right now, you're detained until I figure out who you are.
Are you going to release me if I give you my name?
Well, I've asked you how many times you've refused. We're
Well,
going to go down there. We're going to run your
sir.
fingerprint.
I've also asked you your name, your badge number.
No law says I have to give you my name. It'll be on your arrest report.
Is it not in your policy?
Like, this man knows the fucking law, and by then he's gonna try to find a. He said it's gonna be on your arrest report. Like, dude, you are literally fucking up right now. All right, let's go.
Policy?
No, it's not.
Was I doing anything wrong?
Yeah. You were accused of it, and until I can prove that you're not, by simply giving me your name and I can get your address, we would have left. You're the one keeping me here this long. Because for some reason,
He broke the motherfucking one unwritten law. Don't fucking disrespect the cops. That's the one unwritten law that in a lot of cases will get you killed. You disrespected the fucking cop. But let's continue.
I don't know why. You just want to make this so hard. Why? Are you just anti-government and hate the police? What?
No, I'm pro civil rights. If you tell me that, if you tell me that you will let
He got his ass. He's like, I'm just pro civil rights. Oh wow, that was a thing he said. Okay, let's go.
go, if I give you my identification, I will give you my identification.
I don't know that I should let you go. I really think
Well-
right now you might have some mental health problems, and I think we might need to go see a doctor.
The officer
Like you guys hear this shit, right? You guys hear this shit, right? Wow. Did he just really say this shit? Like, I think you may have mental health conditions, so you need to see a doctor. Okay, let's go.
officer tells Mr. Jones he suspects he may be suffering from mental health problems and suggests that he's going to have Mr. Jones taken to be psychiatrically evaluated. Under Arkansas law, police officers have the authority to take citizens into protective custody for psychiatric evaluation and possible care under certain circumstances. This is known as involuntary commitment.
Because you annoyed him. You annoyed him. He's got... Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Shit. Let's go.
Section 20-47-207 of the Arkansas Code states that, quote, a person shall be eligible for involuntary admission if he or she is in such a mental condition as a result of mental illness, disease, or disorder that he or she poses a clear and present danger to himself or herself or others. In order for an individual to be considered a clear and present danger, they must have inflicted serious bodily injury on themselves, attempted suicide, threatened to inflict serious bodily injury on themselves, or inflicted, attempted to inflict, or threatened to inflict serious bodily harm on another. And there must also be a reasonable probability that the conduct will occur or continue if admission is not ordered.
So none of this happened in that interaction. None of this. This is a cop actually just using his power because he's annoyed. But I guess he may have, he may have shown some mental illness by questioning a cop. Because, questioning a cop can get you killed. So, maybe you threatening death by a cop. I don't know. Okay, let's go.
If an officer observes behavior that meets this standard firsthand, Section 20-47-210 of the Arkansas Code allows them to take the individual into protective custody if, now quoting, immediate confinement appears necessary to avoid harm to the person or others, and transport them to a hospital or to a receiving facility or program for evaluation by a physician. Notably, this statute also allows any quote-unquote interested citizen to take an individual they believe to be a clear and present danger to themselves or others to a hospital or a receiving facility or program to be evaluated for potential involuntary commitment, and therefore does not grant police officers any special authority to evaluate an individual's mental health. However, based on the behavior that the officers observed, Mr. Jones clearly did not pose a clear and present danger to himself or others as it is defined in the statute. And so, if the officers were to take him for evaluation, a court could conclude that taking him into protective custody was an unlawful seizure in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Sir, if I give you my identity, will you let me
You've
go?
had about 10 chances to tell me your name. You ain't got it
Well,
yet.
I also asked you.
I don't care what you ask me. I'm asking the questions, not you. You need to lay off.
Yeah, you read, okay. So this is what he actually said. Take a look at this shit.
Yeah, the YouTube stuff, all it's doing is making it worse, man.
The officers placed
You need to lay off the YouTube stuff. Knowing your rights is YouTube stuff. Wow. Knowing your rights is YouTube stuff. Oh, okay. Knowing your rights is YouTube stuff. Oh, wow. I didn't know it was YouTube stuff to know your rights. Oh, okay. Let's go.
Mr. Jones under arrest and drove him to the Pope County Detention Center, where they ran his name and confirmed that he was in fact the owner of the property and was not trespassing. Despite this, he was processed and written a ticket for obstruction of governmental operations for refusing to identify himself.
In other words, he was literally caused a problem because,
according to county records, a hearing for the charge was scheduled for December 14th, 2021, and Mr. Jones did not attend or pay the ticket.
He literally was charged because he didn't want to answer a question. So if you actually see this shit, know that it's some bullshit. If you see somebody, why was he arrested? Resisting arrest. What other charge did he have? Resisting arrest. What did he actually do? Well, we put him under arrest and he resisted. What was the original charge? This is also some bullshit. This is a cop can't charge you with anything, so they just want to arrest you and have a record in the system. But here we go.
Resulted in an additional charge of failure to appear, which is a Class A misdemeanor. As of the date of writing this episode, both charges were still pending. Overall, Sergeant McMillan and Deputy Saffold get a C-, because although there is an argument to be made that the troopers could have arrested Mr. Jones for trespassing, the deputies failed to carry out any sort of legitimate investigation, displayed a fundamental misunderstanding of Arkansas's identification laws, and escalated an innocent, non-criminal encounter into an extremely questionable arrest. Instead of reaching out to the nearest homeowner or attempting to verify Mr. Jones's address by knocking on nearby homes, the deputies elected to interrogate Mr. Mr. Jones and then refused to believe anything that he told them. If the deputies had taken the time to conduct an actual investigation into the complainant's claims or made any effort to verify the information that Mr. Jones provided outside of forcing him to identify himself, then this interaction could have had a peaceful and positive resolution. In an effort to curtail the duty of acting as an impartial investigator into criminal claims, the deputies misrepresented the facts of the encounter, made blatantly false claims, and distorted the language of Arkansas law in their favor. At one point in the video, Sergeant McMillan tells the jailer to be sure to book Mr. Jones so that it appears less like the trooper had made a mistake, and it appears as though the sergeant was questioning the legality of his own conduct. Ultimately, the
Wait, he said book him because, wow. He said book him because we need to have something on him. Okay, let's go.
deputy's decision to arrest Mr. Jones was lazy and unprofessional, and this interaction highlights the important role that investigation plays in law enforcement. Mr. Jones gets a B-, because although he could have invoked his right to silence more effectively, he remained calm and collected throughout the encounter, challenged the conduct of the deputies without becoming rude or vulgar, and maintained a respectable balance between complying with the lawful commands of the deputies and invoking his constitutional rights. Mr. Jones offered the officers all the information that they needed to verify whether or not he was trespassing, and it is difficult to fault Mr. Jones for refusing to surrender information that he was not legally obligated to share. It was not Mr. Jones's job to investigate whether or not he was trespassing, and he made a legitimate effort to dispel the deputies' suspicions without compromising his own personal privacy. All that said, the fact that Mr. Jones did not attend his court hearings may have a significant impact on the outcome of his case, and it goes without saying that it is extremely important to be present at any court summons so that you can ensure that your case is being properly handled. If nothing else, I commend Mr. Jones for keeping a level head throughout the encounter and for insisting that his rights be respected. However, I would also encourage Mr. Jones to channel his passion into defending his actions in the courtroom as well. Let us know if there is an interaction.
All right, so that was actually, oh, fuck it, I can't even lie. That was just dog shit because these motherfucking police were just fucking lazy. That's it. They were just lazy. And I don't know what else to say. They were just motherfucking lazy. But anyway. Like, share, subscribe, and all that other good shit. If you're watching live on YouTube, remember to hit that like button so this gets out to more people. And if you're on Twitch, follow. You know, it will help if you subscribe as well. But anyway, I'm going to cut the video segment here.
If I gave myself the power